the science of Bhagavad Gita. Basically, I am a physician and a scientist. So my service is to talk to scientists and help them appreciate spirituality and integrate philosophy with science. So I think everybody is aware of Bhagavad Gita, isn't it? Everybody here? You're not aware, okay, fine. Where is that book? I think it's behind you. Is there Bhagavad Gita?
Bhagavad Gita is right there.
Where is that? Yes, so this book, Bhagavad Gita, I think this is this is the book, the central teachings of what we are teaching here. It's based on this book. Now I'm going to talk about this book and show you how this book is scientific and not just spiritual knowledge is there in this book, but there are principles of science and philosophy in this book. So I'm going to show you and give you some examples of that. And how do you derive scientific principles from this book? That's what we are going to talk today. Okay, let me just start now. Okay. So what is Bhagavad Gita? First I'll talk what is Bhagavad Gita. Then I'll tell you almost everyone all around the world, philosophers, scientists, politicians, from all walks of life, they appreciate Bhagavad Gita. And then the question comes, what is there so special in this small book that everybody appreciates this book? And that's what we are going to see today. So to inspire you to read this book and apply this in your life, that's the purpose of this seminar. Okay, so what is Bhagavad Gita? Something is going on there. So, well, if you talk about Bhagavad Gita, first we have to go to the Vedas. I think you all are aware of the term the Vedas. Vedas are ancient, in quotations, let's say, Hindu scriptures. It's not, Hindu is no term, but ancient Vedic scripture from India, eastern part of the world. And this Vedas, it is supposed to be directly originating from God. These are the words of God, or better say, these are the thoughts of God. This book, it is accepted in the tradition. So, but the problem is, if you read Vedas, you can understand spirituality, you can understand philosophy, you can understand science. Vedas talk about all branches of knowledge. That's this term Ved. Ved means to know, which helps you to know about this material world and also spiritual world and also yourself. That is this book. But the problem with this book is, actually it's not one book, it's a compendium of books. Like for example, Old Testament. So Old Testament is not one book. It is like many books together, isn't it? Deuteronomy, Numbers, and so on and on and on. Similarly, Vedas, we have 4 Vedas: Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, and Athar Ved. Okay, so how many people want to read this book? You can understand so many things, isn't it? But there's a problem reading this book. This is in Sanskrit. This is the first page of Rig Ved. This is the first sutra of Rig Ved. This one here. You see, this is Sanskrit. You'll not understand much, but this is the first sutra, and it goes like Agnamile Purohitam Yagyasya Devam Ritvijam Hotaram Ratnadhatamam Agni Purvebhi Rishibhir Idayo Nutanairuta Sadevam Eha Vakshati, and so on and so on and so on. I have not added annotations and like all these a proper pronunciation, the way of speaking here, but it goes like that. Now the point is, this is Vedic Sanskrit. And how much time do you need to learn Sanskrit? We have two types of Sanskrit. One is Sanskrit which is spoken nowadays. One is a Sanskrit which is spoken in Vedic times. Now, if you want to learn normal Sanskrit, it will take you minimum 12 years. And if you want to learn Vedic Sanskrit, which is very different from normal Sanskrit, it is not very, but it's drastically different from normal Sanskrit. You need another 10, 11, 12 years for training how to actually read this. Just read this, not understand. Just reading. That's the point there. So you see 20, 25 years. And then if you want to understand, you have to actually decode these verses. These verses are codes. You understand codes? Codes. This Vedic language is a coded language. If you want to decode it, you have to learn 6 more subjects, which are called Vedangas, which is Kalpa, Jyotish, Nirukta, Chand, Vyakarana, and Shiksha. 6 things. 6 subjects more you have to learn. Vyakarana means grammar, Nirukta means dictionary. You see, if you want to understand any language, you need dictionary, no? You need to learn grammar. Shiksha, you need to know how to pronounce it. Pronunciation changes the meaning. You have to know Jyotish, at what time you have to read the book, at what time you are not supposed to read the book. There are rules of reading this book. So you have to learn all these things. So then you spend another 10 years of your life more. It's already gone out of hand, you know. The point is you can't read this book. It's in this life. Forget it. And on the top of that, if you want to understand this is, I'm just telling, reading. If you want to decode this book, you have to understand 6 philosophical systems then. You need another 5-10 years, maybe, depends. That is Vaisheshika, Nyaya, Sankhya, Vedanta, Mimamsa, Yoga. You have to understand all these things, and then you go to this first line of Rig Veda and then read it. In fact, on this first line of Rig Veda, Madhvacharya so Madhvacharya, he is a big saint who has written commentary on this Rig Veda. On first line of first chapter of Rig Veda, he has devoted 50 pages to explain what this means. And I've read that, and you need a lot of depth to understand all these things.
Madhvacharya? Who did Madhvacharya?
Yeah, Madhvacharya. You see, it's already out of hand. So what to do? If you don't have knowledge, what to do? How to understand things? How to understand your life? That's the most important thing. So that's where the role of Mahabharata comes. Vyasadeva, he compiled Mahabharata, which is a summary of all the Vedic scriptures. You see it so much already, and you summarize. He understood. He actually did your homework and compiled this book.
Could you just say that page that you were showing us?
Mm-hmm.
What was that? What was that?
Oh, this is Rig Veda, chapter 1.
Oh, okay.
Rig Veda, chapter 1, and this is the verse. It starts like that.
All right, so obviously that's Vedic Sanskrit.
Yeah, Vedic Sanskrit. So Mahabharata. So, okay, fine. We leave Vedas out. Now we read Mahabharata. Okay, you are with me. But the problem with Mahabharata is it has 1 lakh verses, 1.8 million words. Do you have time? No time, first of all. And but this book is good. Vyasadeva said about this book, whatever is here is found elsewhere, but whatever is not here is nowhere else. So he summarized all knowledge in this book, but still it's too much. But then here comes the role of Bhagavad Gita, which is a part of Mahabharata. Actually, just a section of Mahabharata. This is one of the chapter of Mahabharata, Bhishma Parv, chapter 23 to chapter 40. So you see, all Vedic scriptures are summarized into Mahabharata. Mahabharata is summarized into Gita, and Gita is 18 chapters, 700 verses. Anybody can read, and it's very easy Sanskrit. For reading Gita Sanskrit, you don't even need to learn normal Sanskrit. You can just take some crash course, and just go into this. That's so easy. Yeah, it's so easy. In fact, I hold 10 days course on Sanskrit in India, and then after that people can just understand. Of course, they don't become scholars, but they can understand what's happening here. So that's Bhagavad Gita. Now, why is it that everyone is praising Bhagavad Gita? For example, if you read at the back of this book, it is Mahatma Gandhi. He has praised Bhagavad Gita. Everybody knows in the last. He's a politician and a saint and a politician. Yeah, let's say that. Mahatma Gandhi has praised. Henry David Thoreau. He is a big person. Yeah, it's like America, and he praised. And there are many other people who praised. And I would like to quote some people from different branches of science. For example, Aldous Huxley. He was a writer. And he praised Bhagavad Gita, and you note what he said. So you just, what he said, that's interesting. He said, Bhagavad Gita is the most systematic statement of spiritual evolution. Now, I'm showing you these people because you see the point. If an Indian is praising Bhagavad Gita, if a saint is praising, you might say they are biased, isn't it? If a Christian is praising Bible, yeah, he's got to praise. But these are people who are philosophers, who are writers. They just read Bhagavad Gita and they appreciated it. And he said it's the most systematic statement of spiritual evolution. Now remember, he's not a biased person. He says systematic presentation of philosophy. Then there is Henry David Thoreau, I just mentioned. This is another philosopher, Prussian philosopher, Humboldt. And he said, Bhagavad Gita is the most beautiful, perhaps the only true philosophical song existing in any known tongue. You see, these people are from all walks of life. Politicians, philosophers, writers, and they're all praising Bhagavad Gita. Albert Schweitzer, he was a medical person, a doctor. Bhagavad Gita has a profound influence on the spirit of mankind by its devotion to God, which is manifested by action. This person could understand Bhagavad Gita's devotion to God, which is manifested by action. He could understand Bhagavad Gita is calling for action. If you read this book, Prabhupada always says spirituality is action. It is not just sitting in one place. And this person could understand just by reading this Bhagavad Gita without even commentary of Srila Prabhupada. You can see how clear this book is, how clarity is there in this book. People can understand. Okay. Hermann Hesse, he said, he was a German Swiss poet. He said, Bhagavad Gita is a life's wisdom which enables philosophy to blossom into religion. These are beautiful quotes. He found a connection, a bridge between philosophy and religion. You see, philosophy and religion, they are two different things. No? Philosophers, they think religion is myth and superstition. Religious people think philosophers are they are just dry logicians. He found a connection. So, not only Westerner and Western world, they praise Bhagavad Gita. Vedas praise Bhagavad Gita. You can imagine. I showed you Vedas. No book in Vedas, in scriptures, in East Indian scriptures, is complete without praising Bhagavad Gita. You open any Puran, you open any book, they have got to praise Bhagavad Gita. Otherwise, it's not complete. For example, Atharvaveda. Now you see what Atharvaveda says. It's a beautiful. I just quoted this to impress upon you another point. It says that fool who wants to attain liberation by constant yoga practice, without hearing the wisdom of Gita, is fit to be laughed at even by a child. You see, in Western world we have so much yoga. Yeah, okay, fine, yoga, but then without Bhagavad Gita, it's a fit to be laughed by a child. This is interesting. You can quote, you can go and you can say, well, that's good, you're teaching yoga, but you have to incorporate this Bhagavad Gita with you. So, Varaha Puran, I'm just showing you, Varaha Puran praises Bhagavad Gita, Skanda Puran is praising Bhagavad Gita. These Puranas means they are actually part of Vedic knowledge. Many books I told you, so books. Padma Puran praises, Agni Puran praises, Harivansh Puran praises, it goes on and on and on. Bhagavad Gita has 17 names. There is no book in history on this planet Earth which has 17 names. Do you have any idea? No book. Why? Why a book is having 17 names? It has got to be very important. 17 names like Ganga, Gita, Savitri. Oh, this is Sita. Sorry, yeah, this is wrong. It's Satya. Like, one of the name of Bhagavad Gita is 𝗪𝗲. You see here, 𝗪𝗲? This one. This one, 𝗪𝗲. This ardha means half, matra means syllable. Bhagavad Gita is called 𝗪𝗲 because if you even read half syllable of this book, your life can become perfect. That's how they glorify Bhagavad Gita. 𝗪𝗲. In fact, it is said in some Puranas, even a full stop in Bhagavad Gita carries importance. In fact, if you know Sanskrit, even a space between two letters carries a meaning. A blank space. That's how it goes. That's what the importance of this book is. Okay. That's why Shankaracharya, he was a great saint. This verse, you know, Gita, Sugita, Kartavya. Yeah.
I saw one on there. It said
Yeah, forget it. I saw that. Just don't know it. I just got spelling wrong. No. Paranoid is not name of this. It just got it wrong. I don't know. It did something. So Shankaracharya, he praised Bhagavad Gita and he said this Sanskrit verse, it means simply, if this book is spoken by God himself and this is sufficient, why do you need any other book? The idea is not to read other books. The idea is to read other books through the eyes of Bhagavad Gita. That's how it goes. Shankaracharya praises. So the next question is, what is so special about Bhagavad Gita? That's the question. Why so many people, why all books are praising this small book? What's so special? This is like little big. Pocket edition can come in your pocket. That's all. What's there in this book? We must read this book. So I am just going to give you some glimpse what is there in this book. Okay. By the way, Bhagavad Gita is not a religious book. That if you think that's not really quite right, Bhagavad Gita is an instructional manual. Let's put it like that. If you want to describe Bhagavad Gita in 2 words, you can say instructional manual. If you want to describe Bhagavad Gita in another 2 words, you can say it is an open secret. That's also said. Some of our acharyas, they say open secret. It's there, but to understand this, you need association of wise people to really enter into the meaning. It's open secret. But let's stick to this instructional manual. Bhagavad Gita is an instructional manual to understand any kind of religion ever in history or existing or maybe in future. You read any religion, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, mystic religions like Kabbalah, like Zen, or maybe this Sufism, Rumi. If you want to understand any of them, Bhagavad Gita will provide the principles to understand. You see the point? If you want to understand calculus, if you want to understand differential equations, if you want to understand trigonometry, you need to know maths. 1 + 1, 2. Maths, the basic thing, provides principles. This book will provide principles to understand any religion on this planet. It's not a religious book. It will give you principles to understand religion. You got the point? So anybody can read. That's the idea there. It's an instructional manual to understand many religions and also to solve the mystery of diversity of religions. You see, we say there's this religion, what's happening in so many religions, what to do. It will help you to harmonize the diversity of religions, Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is also instructional manual for the entire world. By entire world, I mean Bhagavad Gita is instructional manual to guide this world in all fields of knowledge. Whether you take social moral science, political science, natural science, art and linguistics, psychological science, metaphysics and philosophy, health science, spiritual science, this is what society runs on, isn't it? Isn't it? Yes. Society runs on these sciences. Bhagavad Gita provides the knowledge for all these sciences, and I'm going to give you examples of all these sciences in Bhagavad Gita. It's there, right there. And Bhagavad Gita talks about that. The principles, maybe not so much details, Bhagavad Gita is not talking about, if you talk about natural sciences, Bhagavad Gita is not talking about how to exactly do metallurgy or nanoscience, but it will give you the principles of science. Okay, so, and the main thing is scientific instruction, how to lead your life. That's a more important thing, isn't it? Okay, so let me give you examples to appreciate what this book is all about. In fact, this is one book you can take in your hand and you can just travel all around the world and talk to anybody. You can practically talk to anybody in this world and actually maybe just impress him, maybe just convince him, whatever. I was in Boston last year, and we had a program, I think in near MIT, and there were some scientists and some philosophers. Yes, most of the philosophers, but some scientists were there. So I had a presentation on this, and two physicists, they took Bhagavad Gita actually. They took it. They were saying, wow, we were thinking it's some kind of religious book and this and that, and now we understand, we want to read this book. That's how it's good to present our philosophy in a scientific way, isn't it? Okay, let me give you examples. Okay, moral science. If you talk about moral science, there are so many things: ethics, values, and there's so many things. Virtue. But all of these, the whole science can be summarized into 3 words. This is not my summary. This is summary of Friedrich Hayek. Friedrich Hayek, he was a sociologist. He actually got a prize for his research, and he wrote a book, The Counter-Revolution of Science. And the statement was, so that was the heading of the book, and the subheading was Abuse of Reason. So Friedrich said, well, all moral science can be summarized into 3 words: dignity, well-being, and integrity. Isn't it? It makes sense. 3 words: moral science, dignity, well-being, integrity. Okay, Bhagavad Gita talks about all these 3. 5,000 years back, before Friedrich Hayek, Bhagavad Gita talked about this. And I'll show you where it talks about this. I think devotees know these verses. Chapter 17, 14 to 16 verse. You go and read these verses. Chapter 17, verse 14, 15 and 16. So what does Bhagavad Gita say? Austerity of body consists in worship of Supreme Lord, Brahmanas, spiritual master, superiors like father, mother, in cleanliness, simplicity, celibacy and non-violence. So you see, this verse is talking about what? This verse is talking about dignity, isn't it? There are people, we have to respect them. There is a dignity of etiquette. Do you understand? It's there. Second verse, austerity of speech. It consists in speaking words that are truthful, pleasing, beneficial, not agitating to others, and also in regularly reciting Vedic literatures. What is this? This is simple. This is well-being. If you want well-being in any society, the most important thing is communication. Everybody says that. Everybody. In fact, Mahabharata, I showed you that book, Mahabharata. It begins with the statement, entire war happened due to this 2-inch of muscle which is free. This is a muscle. By the way, tongue is a muscle. But it is free at one end. This is dangerous, Wars happen, so many things happen. You can in fact end enmity by speaking. Communication is very important. In fact, so one of the scriptures, Shukracharya Niti Shastra, there is one scripture. It says, and this is interesting, if you are very intelligent, suppose you are very intelligent, and suppose you are a crow, will anybody listen to you? No, isn't it? You will just say quack quack. Not impressive. Even if you are giving the most coherent logic. And suppose you are a kokil. What's that kokil called? Cuckoo is there? Cuckoo. Suppose you are a cuckoo and you are the most foolish cuckoo. But when you speak, so many people will be attracted towards you, isn't it? That's what Niti Shastra says. The point is, the scriptures doesn't ask you to become foolish, but the point is, much of the communication depends on your speaking and presentation. You see, all people who present, they know this. 70% of your lecture, the impression is of your communication, the style of communication. It's not really the content which goes. Content is 30% according to modern research. So this is what? This is well-being of others, well-being. And third is what? Integrity. Integrity comes by satisfaction in mind, simplicity, gravity, self-control, purification of one's existence. That is austerities of mind. It's beautifully, Krishna has summarized, Gita has summarized all moral sciences in 3 verses. You can imagine? Isn't it impressive? If you really think about it, it's beautiful actually. You can spend your whole life thinking about these 3 verses and practicing it. It's so nice. This is about moral science. Okay, what about socio-political science? Let me give you an example. Socio-political science is basically hierarchy, isn't it? Political, social. There is hierarchy, whether you like or not. There has to be a hierarchy. So there are soldiers, there are officials, there are presidents and prime minister. Isn't it hierarchy? And Gita talks about hierarchy. 5,000 years back, it talked about hierarchy, but it talks about a hierarchy which is free of enviousness and free of caste. That's a problem with hierarchy, isn't it? Caste. So what's that verse? Everybody knows. 4 chapter 13th verse. Chaturvarnaya maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasha. Simple. So all socio-political science is based on hierarchy, which is based on qualities and the actions of an individual, not just his designation and caste and his socio-economic strata. You see the point there? And so it's a beautiful 2 lines. Gita solves all socio-political problems by giving us an insight how to plan a society. You see, this is about socio-political science. Now keep in mind, Gita is talking about principles, not details. Principles are important. What about natural science? Okay, here's a quiz for you all. Just see this verse, chapter 2, text 16. Now this verse, it's a half of the verse, and it says, Na asato vidyate bhavo, na abhavo vidyate satah. Now you know what that means? What exists will always be there, and what does not exist will never be there. What's this? Can anybody tell me what is this law? What exists will always be there, what does not exist will never be there.
What exists is the soul, what not exists is the body.
But I'm asking a law in natural science. So I'm not interpreting this verse according to spiritual perspective, but I'm interpreting this verse according to a scientific perspective, and that's why I'm asking, what is this law in universe?
Law of conservation of energy.
Yeah, law of conservation of energy. What is there can never be destroyed, isn't it? So actually, commentators, when they comment on this verse, they have an insight. Every verse of Bhagavad Gita have a scientific insight also. And so if you go in Sanskrit, it's easy to understand this. Sanskrit. Na asato. So this verse asato means temporary, and na bhavo means what is temporary will not always be there. I mean to say, asato means what doesn't exist. What doesn't exist, na bhavo, is not there, and what always exists, satah, will always be there. Simple. Law of conservation of energy. It's right there in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, this law of conservation of energy. We also have arts and linguistics in Bhagavad. If you want to learn how to speak Bhagavad Gita, in fact, in all traditional Gurukul, if you go to India, Gurukul, you understand, teaching children. Go to India, they first teach them Bhagavad Gita. And linguistics means language. So if you study Bhagavad Gita verses very nicely, you can know how to write good language, whether in English, Spanish or whatever. These are the principles of language. You see this verse, beautiful verse, it uses 3 times this word, ascharya, ascharya, ascharya. And then it uses pashyati, vadati, shrinoti. There is a rhyme, there is repetition. And then if you really look in this verse, there are some metaphor and I mean to say alankars, some rhetorics. You understand that branch, rhetorics? You can learn rhetorics. In fact, there are just two books which scholars read to learn Sanskrit, Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And nobody who is reading Sanskrit and rhetorics have still understood Bhagavatam fully from the perspective of rhetorics, and there's nobody which do not appreciate Bhagavatam. That's their book to read rhetorics and language. Such important books. Bhagavad Gita also talks about psychological science. By the way, this book is all about psychology, isn't it? We are all dealing with mind control. But here's one simple example, 6.5. Bhagavad Gita says, one must deliver himself with the help of mind and not degrade himself. Mind is a friend of conditioned soul and his enemy as well. You understand this, no? A trained mind is a friend, untrained mind is an enemy. That's how Prabhupada explains. Okay, this is a simple example. Now I'm giving you a very very subtle example and very not subtle, but let's say a very to the point example of how Bhagavad Gita talks about psychology. Okay, here okay, fine. Anybody psychologist here, by the way? No? Do you have some idea? Modern psychology have 5 branches. Modern psychology. Social psychology, developmental psychology. You don't really need to understand, but I'm just telling you. Reflexive psychology, behavioral psychology, and Freudian. Freudian, you know? Sigmund Freud. That's okay. So what these things are talking about, these are big jargons, but no problem. These branches are talking about, social psychology is talking about the place of action. Social psychology is trying to analyze society, the impact of society on your psychology. Is it? It's talking about place of action, the place where you are. Developmental psychology is talking about the performer, the development of an individual, how the development of an individual affects the psyche. Are you understanding, all of you? You're on the same page. Reflexive psychology is focusing on the senses. How our senses, how our reflexes in the senses affects the psyche. Reflexive desires, uncontrolled desires, you see. Behavioral psychology is focusing on our endeavors, how our behavior affects the psyche, how our behavior on the society affects the psyche. And Freudian psychology, everybody knows, subconscious mind, it's focusing on subconscious mind. Okay, so if you understand these 5 branches, basically these 5 things, you understand psychology. And if you understand the psyche of a person, you can predict his actions. That's psychology all about. Isn't it? Some patient goes, why I'm doing what I'm doing? Please, doctor, explain to me. So he has to predict his actions by understanding his psyche. So you see this. So any devotee is actually familiar of these 5 words in Bhagavad Gita? Is there? Is there? These 5 words are there in Bhagavad Gita.
The 5 factors of action.
Yeah, 5 factors of action. It's right there. And here's a verse in Bhagavad Gita, 18:14. The place of action, the performer, the senses, the endeavor, and the subconscious. These are 5 factors of action. 5,000 years back, Gita summarizes all psychology, which took us around 300 years to figure out in one verse. That's the power of Bhagavad Gita. You see the point? This is not an ordinary book. This book, I talk to scientists on the basis of this book. I talk to them. I talk to them. I say, see, I'm going to talk from this book. And then I show them what is the power of this book. This book, oh my God, that's why. Okay, I'll give you another example, and that may be a little relevant to you all. There are some kind of diseases, psychological. In fact, out of every 5, 1 is suffering from some psychological disease. That's the latest data. Out of every 5 people, 1 is suffering from some kind of psychological problem. So these are all psychological diseases. Have anybody heard these names? You have heard these names? delusion, hallucination, schizophrenia, paranoia, depression, bipolar disorder, mania, and insanity. I mean to say, you might have heard all these movies are there, on this movies, modern movies. Okay, so if you know this, that's very nice. But thing I'm going to tell you is these are all the main diseases in psychology, the main things. But these diseases are actually based on one principle. Delusion, hallucination, schizophrenia is basically can be bracketed into the principle of dreaming. These people are dreaming, isn't it? Hallucination, they are seeing something. Schizophrenia, they are hearing voices. They are in a dreamy state. Paranoia means patient is fearful. The main factor of paranoia is fearful. Depression, the main thing in the patient is lamentation. Is always lamenting. This happened, that happened, that happened. Bipolar disorders. Patient is basically morose, sometimes very active. Bipolar becomes very enthusiastic, and then depression. And enthusiastic, that's. And maniac and insanity, patient is simply in illusion. He's maniac. He doesn't understand what he's doing. He takes right to be wrong, wrong to be right, isn't it? He's maniac. So these 5 words summarizes all psychological diseases what we have. And guess this is there in Bhagavad Gita. And which verse is that? Anybody tell me? Is there? It's right there in Bhagavad Gita. I'll show you. Bhagavad Gita 18.35. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness and illusion, such unintelligent determination is in mode of darkness. You see? Exactly the same words. Dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, illusion. Is there. And on the top of it, Bhagavad Gita gives us an insight why this is happening. Bhagavad Gita says it's in mode of darkness. Why these diseases are happening? Due to mode of darkness, due to tamagun. And that's how, as a doctor, we treat patients according to Ayurveda. I'm both. I'm modern doctor and Ayurvedic both. When a patient comes with mental problems, we try to get him free of mode of ignorance. What is mode of ignorance? It's there in this book. By changing his food habits, lifestyle, you can treat patients without medicines. So that's how this book is. So I've given you 2 examples how Bhagavad Gita is to the point, and it summarizes so how Bhagavad Gita is principles, but those from principles you can also extract details. If you know real Sanskrit, if you know little insight, you can extract details from that book. Okay, here is philosophy. In just 2 lines, Gita summarizes all philosophy which have ever existed. Ever exists, from Nietzsche to Kierkegaard to Schopenhauer to whatever you take it. All philosophy. And Gita says, Yam lavdva cha param labham manyate na adhikam tataha. Upon gaining which there is no other greater gain. Aim, the goal of all philosophy is what? Satisfaction, isn't it? And happiness. Many philosophers, in fact, they went...
Truth?
Huh?
Yeah,
truth. But then Yatma suprasidati, truth gives us supreme satisfaction. So truth and satisfaction, yeah, we can say. Yeah. Truth. You can. Upon gaining which there is no greater gain. So you reach ultimate truth and there is no other greater gain, and that will give you supreme satisfaction. So what do you do? Most of the philosophers, they proposed a philosophy, and it didn't end for them, isn't it? Nietzsche practically got insane. Who was that? Kierkegaard, he went into depression. This 621.
Like 622.
It's not 21? It's not 21?
A little bit before,
Oh.
620.
Maybe I have to. Okay, I think we have to just.
One more ahead, maybe 1 or 2 ahead.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, maybe I just got it
The
wrong.
series starts with 620. Could be,
Let's see. It's right there. 621. Yeah, it's a series. Yeah, 21, 20,
Series, yes.
23.
It's a little bit
23.
later in
Yeah,
the series.
23. It's 23. It's a bunch of verses. It's together. So, okay. So that's about philosophy. What about health sciences? You are all interested in health, isn't it? And I'll give you some tip for being healthy here. Not I. Gita gives you. I'm not giving you. If you want to be healthy, first thing is, if you want to be healthy, pills will not make you healthy, first of all. It doesn't go like that. More important is pills.
Want to be healthy, man?
Pills.
Pills will not make you
Pills will not really
Pills
make
will not
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, pills will not do it. You need some principles of life. And you see, according to Ayurveda, there are 3 pillars of health. That is ahar, diet, nidra, sleep, and brahmacharya, celibacy. Celibacy is not exactly what you think. It's not. It's a very broad term. Celibacy is to keep your mind pure. It's a very broad bracket, isn't it? It's not just controlling sexual urge. It's not just that. So celibacy is purity of mind and thoughts and good thoughts. So these 3 things: diet, sleep, and celibacy. If your diet, sleep, and mind if you know how to regulate them, you are healthy. These are called 3 pillars of health in Ayurveda, and technically it is called Traya Upastham. And Ayurveda says, if you know what to do and when to do, exactly when to eat, when to sleep, and when to think and when not to think, that's also there. Then you can be healthy. That's what I was explaining. It's not important what you eat, it's important how and when you eat. And that's totally missing in modern world. People just say what to eat: proteins, carbohydrates, pills, and this and this and this. Come on, when to eat, tell us. And Ayurveda says a poison eaten at right time becomes nectar, and nectar eaten in wrong time becomes poison. For example, curd. I'll give you an example. Curd, if you eat in night, it's poisonous. Although curd is healthy. Now, if you see an ad, curd has lactobacillus, isn't it? All those things, and it's good for health. Okay, but if you're eating in night, it's poison. But if you're eating in daytime, it's nectar. That's how it goes. So you see the point there. So how to do this? I'm not going into details, but Bhagavad Gita talks about that 5,000 years ago. Now here's a verse, 6:17. Yukta ahar viharasya cha yukta chestasya karmasaho yukta swapna bodhasya yoga bhakti dukha. This is English. He who is balanced in habits of eating. See, here is eating, diet, sleeping. Here is sleeping. Here is sleeping. Recreation. Recreation means basically exercises, going morning walks, exercises. That is included in diet, because eating and exercise goes together. If you don't do exercise, whatever you eat, it will not go into your body. And if you do exercise and if you don't eat, you become weak. They are all linked together. So, see, can mitigate all pains by practice of yoga system. So beautiful. So Gita talks about ahar vihar karmasahu sapna. Karmasahu means celibacy, keeping your actions and mind pure. Okay, this is health science. And the last is spiritual science. That's the most important thing. And you know what? So you all know Bhagavad Gita is divided into six chapters. The first 6 chapters is Karma Yoga, second 6 Bhakti Yoga, third 6 Jnana Yoga. But let me just put it in another perspective. First 6 chapters helps to develop values in your life. Karma Yoga helps to develop values, isn't it? We all need values. Bhakti Yoga helps to develop happiness and satisfaction in your life. And Jnana Yoga helps to develop knowledge. This is what a person is: knowledge, happiness, and values. And when you combine all those things, then we become a complete person. When we become a complete person, we can understand love of God. And that's the aim of Bhagavad Gita. Love of God. That's where this Gita is going. All these sciences, whatever I explained, it is coming to this point of love of God. It is like all these sciences are helping manage society, manage our lives, to attain love of God, and help develop these three things in our personality: values, satisfaction, happiness, and knowledge. This is so there was an ad in India, a complete man. They used to a shaving ad. He shaves and then he says, "I'm a complete man," and that's what any man needs. If you have these 3 things, you're complete in your life, isn't it? And when you're complete, you can connect with complete, isn't it? Om Purnamidam Purnamada. That complete is God. And that connection between this complete and that complete is love. Love of God. That's Bhagavad Gita talking about. So my request is, please read Bhagavad Gita. And here I would like to end the seminar. This is Bhagavad Gita itself glorifies itself. That's how this book is. It said this knowledge is the king of education. The king of education. I have showed you it's really a king of education. It's not something what do we say? What is it? Just an exaggeration. So king of education, most secrets of all secrets, is the purest of knowledge, gives direct perception of self by realization. It is perfection of religion, it is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. That's how it is. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay.